The eviction notice felt heavier than it should have, considering it was just a piece of paper. Luna Matthews stared at the bold red letters, final notice, 72 hours to vacate, while her hands trembled from more than just the December cold seeping through the cracked windows of their cramped studio apartment. $5.37. That's what remained in her wallet after buying a loaf of bread and a carton of milk that would have to last 3 days. She'd counted it twice, hoping somehow the bills would multiply like in some fairy tale. But fairy tales didn't pay rent in Chicago's South Side, and landlords didn't accept wishes instead of money. Mama? Maya's soft voice pulled Luna from her spiral of despair. Her 3-year-old daughter stood in the doorway wearing Marcus's old t-shirt as a nightgown, her dark curls a wild halo around her sleepy face. Behind her, Kai rubbed his eyes with tiny fists, his identical features scrunched with confusion. "Why are you crying?" Maya asked, padding barefoot across the cold linoleum. Luna quickly wiped her cheeks, surprised to find them wet. When had she started crying? "I'm not crying, baby girl. Mama's just tired." But Maya had Marcus's intuitive nature. She climbed onto Luna's lap with the determination of a mountain climber, her small hands cupping Luna's face. "It's okay to be sad sometimes, Mama. Daddy used to say that sadness makes the happy times feel bigger." The words hit Luna like a physical blow. Marcus had said that, usually while holding her during thunderstorms or after her mother's cruel phone calls. He'd had a way of making pain seem temporary, manageable. If only he'd managed to stay alive long enough to help her through this. "Come here, buddy," Luna called to Kai, who was still hovering in the doorway like he wasn't sure he was welcome. Sometimes she saw too much of Marcus in him, that careful way of reading a room before entering, as if he expected trouble. Kai shuffled over and climbed up beside his sister. At 3 years old, he was already her protector, always making sure Maya got the bigger piece of whatever food they had, always letting her choose which cartoon to watch on Luna's cracked phone when the electricity worked. "Are we going to have to move again?" he asked quietly. Luna's throat closed. They'd moved 4 times since Marcus died 18 months ago, each apartment smaller and cheaper than the last. This studio in a building that should have been condemned decades ago was rock bottom. There was nowhere left to fall. "I don't know yet, sweetheart," she managed. "But whatever happens, we stick together. The 3 of us, always. Like a pack," Maya said solemnly, using the word Marcus had taught them for family. Luna had always thought it was just his quirky way of describing their tight bond, but now the word felt loaded with meaning she didn't understand. "Like a pack," Luna agreed, pressing kisses to both their heads. They smelled like the baby shampoo she'd watered down to make it last longer, and something else, something wild and earthy that reminded her painfully of Marcus. The twins settled against her on the sagging couch, Maya's thumb finding its way to her mouth while Kai kept one protective hand on his sister's back. Within minutes, they were both asleep again, trusting her to handle whatever adult problems threatened their small world. If only she deserved that trust. Luna stared around their pitiful excuse for a home. The kitchenette had exactly 3 plates, 2 cups, and a handful of mismatched silverware. The bedroom was a mattress on the floor surrounded by cardboard boxes that served as dressers. The bathroom door didn't close properly, and the shower ran cold more often than hot. But it was warm. It was dry. It was theirs. And in 3 days, they'd be on the street. She thought about calling her mother, then dismissed the idea immediately. Patricia Coleman had made her position clear when Luna married Marcus against her wishes. "You've made your choice, Luna. Don't come crying to me when that man disappoints you." Well, death was certainly a disappointment, but not the kind her mother had predicted. Marcus hadn't left them for another woman or gambled away their savings. He'd simply gotten sick, and their insurance hadn't covered experimental treatments. Everything they'd owned had gone to medical bills, and when he died, Luna had been left with 2 babies, no job skills beyond the art degree that was apparently worthless, and a grief so profound she could barely function. The only thing of value they had left was Marcus's wedding ring, white gold with an intricate design that looked almost tribal. He'd worn it from the day they married until the day he died, and even in his final delirious moments, he'd clutched it like a lifeline. "Promise me," he'd whispered during one of his last coherent moments. "Promise me you'll keep the children safe. There are people, dangerous people who might." But then the morphine had pulled him under, and he'd never finished the warning. Luna had assumed it was the fever talking. What kind of dangerous people would care about a struggling artist and his family? Now, holding the eviction notice, she wondered if she should have paid more attention. Luna carefully extracted herself from beneath her sleeping children and walked to the small drawer where she kept their few important papers. Buried beneath birth certificates and medical records was a small velvet box. Inside, Marcus's ring caught the light from the street lamp outside, its strange engraving seeming to move in the shadows. She'd never been able to bring herself to sell it. It was the last piece of the man she'd loved with every fiber of her being, the father who'd sung the twins to sleep with lullabies about wolves and moonlight and belonging. But love didn't pay rent. Luna closed her eyes and made the decision that felt like cutting out her own heart. Tomorrow, she'd take Marcus's ring to the pawn shop on Madison Street. It wouldn't be enough for first month's rent and deposit on a new place, but it might buy them a few more weeks in a motel while she figured out their next move. She'd kept them safe for 18 months. She could keep them safe a little longer. As she tucked the ring box into her purse, a strange sensation washed over her, like someone walking over her grave, Marcus used to say. The hair on the back of her neck stood up, and for a moment, she could have sworn she smelled something wild and dangerous, like a forest after a storm. Luna turned toward the window, expecting to see nothing but empty street. Instead, a figure stood beneath the broken streetlight, perfectly still despite the December wind that sent trash skittering down the sidewalk. Even from 3 stories up, she could feel eyes watching her. The figure was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing an expensive-looking coat that seemed out of place in this neighborhood where even the drug dealers shopped at Goodwill. Something about his posture reminded her of Marcus, that predatory stillness, like a hunting cat deciding whether to pounce. Luna's heart hammered against her ribs. She'd lived in this neighborhood long enough to know when something was wrong, and everything about the watching man screamed danger. She grabbed her phone to call 911, but when she looked back, the street was empty. "Mama?" Kai's sleepy voice made her jump. "What's wrong?" "Nothing, baby," she lied, double-checking that all 3 locks on their door were engaged. "Just checking the weather." But as she tucked Kai back under the thin blanket they shared, Luna couldn't shake the feeling that their world was about to change in ways she couldn't imagine. And somewhere in the back of her mind, Marcus's unfinished warning echoed, "There are dangerous people who might." The pawn shop on Madison Street looked exactly like every pawn shop in every bad neighborhood, barred windows, flickering neon sign, and the kind of customers who paid in cash and didn't ask questions. Luna had walked past it dozens of times but never imagined she'd be desperate enough to enter. The twins were safe at their neighbor Mrs. Chen's apartment, probably eating actual breakfast instead of the stale crackers Luna had managed to scrounge. Mrs. Chen was 87, half-deaf, and spoke limited English, but she loved Maya and Kai with the fierce devotion of someone who'd never had grandchildren of her own. "You take time," she'd told Luna in her broken English. "Children safe. You do what you must do." What she must do was sell the last piece of her husband for enough money to keep his children off the street. The bell above the pawn shop door chimed when Luna entered, and the smell hit her immediately, stale cigarettes, old leather, and something else she couldn't identify. Something that made her skin prickle with unease. "Help you?" The clerk behind the counter looked like he'd been cast in a movie about seedy pawn shops, thin, greasy hair, suspicious eyes, and fingers that moved constantly like he was counting invisible money. Luna approached the counter, trying to project more confidence than she felt. "I need to sell this." She placed the velvet box on the counter with hands that trembled only slightly. The clerk opened it, and his eyebrows rose. "This is nice work," he said, lifting the ring to examine it under his desk lamp. "Real gold. Custom design. Where'd you get it?" "It was my husband's wedding ring," Luna said quietly. The clerk's expression softened fractionally. "Sorry for your loss. But I gotta ask, you got papers for this? Receipt, insurance documentation, anything?" Luna's heart sank. No, we bought it years ago. I don't have any paperwork. That makes it harder. Without documentation, I gotta assume it might be stolen, you understand? Best I can do is $200. It wasn't nearly enough, but it would buy food and maybe a week in the cheapest motel she could find. Okay, she whispered. The clerk was reaching for his cash drawer when the shop door chimed again. Luna glanced over her shoulder and froze. The man from the street stood in the doorway, and in daylight, he was even more intimidating than she'd imagined. Tall, probably 6'4", with the kind of broad shoulders that suggested serious gym time. His dark coat looked like it cost more than Luna had made in the last 6 months, and when he moved, it was with a predator's economy of motion. But it was his eyes that made Luna's breath catch. Gray, like storm clouds, and focused entirely on her with an intensity that made her feel like prey. "Excuse me," he said to the clerk, his voice carrying the kind of quiet authority that made people obey without question. "I need to speak with Mrs. Matthews." Luna's blood turned to ice. "How do you know my name?" The stranger approached the counter, and Luna caught his scent, something wild and clean that made her think of forests and moonlight. It was familiar in a way that made no sense, like a half-remembered dream. "My name is Garrett Stone," he said, extending a business card with one smooth motion. "I'm an attorney representing certain interested parties. I've been looking for you for quite some time." Luna stared at the card. The paper was thick, expensive, with raised lettering that read, "Garrett Stone, attorney at law, specialized estate services." "I don't understand," she said. "I don't have any estates. I don't have anything." Garrett's smile held no warmth. "Oh, but you do, Mrs. Matthews. You have something very valuable indeed. And certain people are very eager to reclaim what belongs to them." The pawn shop clerk had gone very still, his eyes darting between Luna and Garrett like he was watching a tennis match that might turn violent. "I think there's been a mistake," Luna said, backing toward the door. Every instinct she possessed was screaming at her to run, to get back to her children, to get as far away from this man as possible. But Garrett moved faster than should have been humanly possible, placing himself between Luna and the exit without seeming to hurry. "There's no mistake," he said softly. "Your husband was Marcus Matthews, born Marcus Shadowmere. He was the heir to a very old, very powerful family. And by the laws that govern such things, his death makes you problematic." Luna's vision grayed at the edges. "Marcus's last name was Matthews. We were married for 5 years. I think I'd know." "Your husband lied to you about everything," Garrett interrupted. "His name, his family, his past. Most importantly, he lied about who you were promised to." The world tilted on its axis. "Promised to?" "Betrothed," Garrett said, and his smile finally reached his eyes, making him look less human and more like something that belonged in nightmares. "From the moment you were born, you were promised to another. Marcus stole you away, but theft doesn't change ownership. And now that he's dead." Luna couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Couldn't process what this stranger was telling her. "The children," she whispered. Garrett's expression sharpened. "Yes. The children are complicating factors. Pure bloodline, from what I understand. Very valuable. Very dangerous if they fall into the wrong hands." He reached into his coat and withdrew a black envelope sealed with silver wax. The design pressed into the wax looked familiar, similar to the engravings on Marcus's ring, but more elaborate, more threatening. "Your intended has been very patient," Garrett continued. "But patience has limits. You have until the next full moon to present yourself at Shadowmere Estate. Bring the children." "And if I don't?" Luna asked, though she was terrified of the answer. Garrett's smile disappeared entirely. "Then Damon Blackthorne will come for you. And when the most feared alpha in North America decides to collect what's his, Mrs. Matthews, running won't help. Hiding won't help. Nothing will help." He placed the black envelope on the counter next to Marcus's ring. "The choice is yours. Come willingly, or be taken. But either way, you belong to him now. With that, Garrett Stone walked out of the pawn shop, leaving Luna staring at the envelope and wondering if she'd finally gone insane from grief and desperation. The pawn shop clerk cleared his throat. Lady, I don't know what kind of trouble you're mixed up in, but maybe you should take your ring and get out of here. Luna looked down at Marcus's wedding band, still sitting in its velvet box. The tribal engraving seemed more ominous now, less like decoration and more like, what? A family crest? A warning? With shaking hands, she picked up both the ring and the black envelope. Whatever was happening, whatever Marcus had hidden from her, she needed to get back to her children. As she stumbled toward the door, the envelope seemed to pulse with warmth against her palm, and she could have sworn she heard something howling in the distance. But that was impossible. Wasn't it? Chapter 2. Luna's hands shook as she fumbled with her apartment keys, the black envelope burning against her palm like a brand. The hallway smelled of old grease and broken dreams, but underneath it all was that strange scent from the pawn shop, wild, dangerous, and somehow familiar. Werewolves. The man had talked about werewolves like they were real, like Marcus had been one. Like her children. No, she whispered to the peeling paint on her door. This is insane. I'm having some kind of breakdown. But the envelope felt real enough. The silver wax seal bore that same intricate design from Marcus's ring, wolves running beneath a crescent moon. She'd seen that symbol before, hadn't she? In dreams that felt more like memories, in fleeting images that vanished when she tried to focus on them. The door to Mrs. Chen's apartment opened before Luna could reach for the handle. Luna? The elderly woman's weathered face creased with concern. You look like you see ghost. If only it were that simple, Luna thought. Ghosts she could handle. Ghosts didn't make demands or threaten to take her children. I'm fine, Mrs. Chen. Thank you for watching the twins. But Mrs. Chen's sharp eyes missed nothing. She stepped closer, and Luna caught a whiff of jasmine tea and something else, something that made the hair on Luna's arms stand on end. You smell like... Mrs. Chen paused, her English failing her. She said something in rapid Mandarin, then shook her head. Like danger. Like wild things. Before Luna could ask what that meant, Maya came barreling out of the apartment, her dark curls bouncing as she launched herself at Luna's legs. Mama. Mrs. Chen made dumplings and taught me how to fold them, and Kai learned how to use chopsticks and... Slow down, baby girl, Luna said, scooping Maya into her arms. The familiar weight of her daughter grounded her, made the nightmare of the last hour feel distant and manageable. Kai appeared in the doorway, more cautious as always. Did you sell Daddy's ring? The question hit Luna like a physical blow. She still had the ring, had grabbed it along with the envelope in her haste to escape the pawn shop. But how could she explain to a 3-year-old that a strange man claiming to be a supernatural attorney had disrupted her plans? Not today, she said finally. Something came up. Mrs. Chen studied Luna's face with eyes that seemed far too knowing for someone who claimed to understand little English. You need help with something, you ask. Some burdens too heavy for young shoulders. Thank you, Luna whispered, meaning it more than she could express. Back in their own apartment, Luna settled the twins with the last of their crackers and turned on cartoons on her phone. They were content for now, bellies full of Mrs. Chen's dumplings, unaware that their world might be crumbling around them. Luna retreated to the kitchenette and broke the silver seal with trembling fingers. Inside the envelope was a single sheet of paper, thick, expensive stationery that felt ancient beneath her touch. The letterhead bore an elaborate family crest with that same wolf and moon design, and below it, elegant script that seemed to shimmer in the dim light. The Shadowmere Pack Council. EST 1847. Luna Matthews, née Coleman. By blood right and ancient law, you are summoned to appear before the Shadowmere Pack at the next full moon, December 21st, to fulfill the betrothal contract established at your birth. Failure to comply will result in immediate enforcement action. Your cubs are expected to accompany you for formal recognition and integration into pack hierarchy. Damon Blackthorne, Alpha. Shadowmere Pack. The paper slipped from Luna's numb fingers. December 21st was in 3 days. Cubs. They'd called her children cubs, like they were animals instead of innocent babies who still needed nightlights and bedtime stories. Luna sank onto the couch, her mind racing. Betrothal contract? Established at birth? Her parents had never mentioned anything about a contract, about promising her to anyone. Her mother might be cold and controlling, but she would never have. The memories hit without warning. She was 5 years old, hiding behind her father's chair while adults argued in the living room. A man with silver eyes, God, those eyes, speaking in low, dangerous tones about honoring agreements and blood debts. Her mother crying, her father's voice raised in anger. She's just a child. Children grow up, Patricia. And when she does, she'll take her place where she belongs. Over my dead body. That can be arranged. Luna gasped, the memory so vivid she could still smell the man's cologne, expensive, with an undertone of something wild. Her parents had moved them to Chicago the next week, claimed it was for her father's job. But now... Mama? Maya's concerned voice broke through the flashback. Why are you crying again? Luna wiped her face, surprised to find tears there. Just remembering something sad, sweetheart. But Maya had inherited more than Marcus's intuitive nature. She had his ability to see through lies. She climbed onto Luna's lap and studied her face with solemn eyes. You smell different, Maya said matter-of-factly. Like when Daddy used to come home from his walks. All wild and woodsy. Luna's heart stopped. What walks? The walks he took when the moon was round, Kai chimed in from the floor where he was building a tower with empty cereal boxes. He'd go out after we went to bed and come back smelling like trees and wind. During the full moon. Marcus had disappeared during every full moon, claiming he needed air, needed space to think. Luna had assumed it was grief counseling or some male bonding thing she wouldn't understand. She'd never questioned it because he always came back calmer, more centered. More satisfied. Did he ever seem different to you? Luna asked carefully. Like, stronger or faster than other daddies? The twins exchanged a look that was far too adult for 3-year-olds. Daddy could hear things we couldn't, Maya said slowly, as if she wasn't sure she should be sharing secrets. Like when the scary man came to the door that one time, Daddy knew he was there before he knocked. And he could see in the dark, Kai added. Remember when the lights went out during the storm? Daddy walked around like it was daytime. Luna's mouth went dry. She remembered that storm, remembered being amazed that Marcus navigated their apartment without stumbling while she couldn't see her own hand in front of her face. And his eyes, Maya whispered, leaning close to Luna's ear like she was sharing the world's biggest secret. Sometimes at night, when he thought we were sleeping, his eyes glowed like a kitty cat's. Golden eyes. Luna's memory supplied the image with painful clarity, Marcus above her in their bed, his dark eyes reflecting the moonlight streaming through their window, pupils dilated with passion and something else. Something primal and hungry that had made her feel like prey and predator all at once. She'd thought it was just the play of light and shadow. The phone rang, making all 3 of them jump. Luna glanced at the screen, unknown number. Her stomach clenched as she answered. Mrs. Matthews? Garrett Stone's smooth voice made her skin crawl. I trust you've had time to read your summons. This is insane, Luna said, turning away so the twins couldn't see her face. Werewolves don't exist. Betrothal contracts don't exist. You're either delusional or running some kind of elaborate scam. Garrett's laugh held no humor. Meet me in the parking lot behind your building. 5 minutes. I'm not going anywhere. Mrs. Matthews, he interrupted, and his voice carried a new edge that made Luna's primitive brain scream warnings. Your children are half-bloods. Do you understand what that means? They're stronger than human children, faster, more intuitive. Haven't you noticed how they seem to know things they shouldn't? How they never get sick. How they can see and hear things you can't. Luna's grip tightened on the phone. The twins had never been sick, not once in their 3 years of life. No colds, no fevers, no childhood illnesses. She'd thought they were just lucky. 5 minutes, Garrett repeated. Or I demonstrate the reality of our world in front of your children. I don't think you want them to see that. The line went dead. Luna stared at the phone, her hands shaking. The twins were watching her with those two knowing eyes, and she realized they could probably hear both sides of the conversation. Enhanced hearing, another gift from their father. Mama has to step outside for a minute, she said, trying to keep her voice steady. Stay here and keep watching cartoons, okay? Don't open the door for anyone. Are you going to talk to the dangerous man? Maya asked quietly. Luna's blood chilled. What dangerous man? The one who smells like anger and old blood, Kai said without looking away from his blocks. He's been watching us for days. Days. This Garrett Stone had been stalking her family for days, and she'd been oblivious. Some mother she was. Luna double-checked the locks and made her way downstairs on legs that felt like rubber. The December air bit through her thin jacket, but the cold was nothing compared to the ice in her veins. Garrett stood beneath the broken streetlight, hands in the pockets of his expensive coat. In the harsh fluorescent light, his features looked sharper, more angular. Less human. You came, he said as she approached. Good. That shows wisdom. What I show is desperation, Luna replied. My children think there's a dangerous man watching us. Are you stalking my family? I'm protecting your family, Garrett corrected. Do you know how many other packs would kill for pure Shadowmere bloodline? Your cubs are walking targets every moment they're unprotected. They're not cubs. Luna exploded. They're children. Human children. Garrett's smile was all teeth. Are they? Before Luna could respond, he stepped backward into the shadows between two buildings. When he emerged into the light again, Luna's sanity shattered completely. The man was gone. In his place stood something out of nightmares, a creature easily 7 feet tall, covered in dark fur that seemed to absorb light. Its eyes glowed silver in the darkness, and when it opened its mouth, rows of razor-sharp teeth gleamed white as bone. Luna stumbled backward, her scream caught in her throat. This wasn't possible. This was a hallucination brought on by stress and grief. The creature's bones began to crack and shift, its massive frame compressing and reshaping itself with sounds like breaking kindling. Fur receded into pale skin, claws retracted into human fingernails, and within seconds, Garrett Stone stood before her again, straightening his tie like he'd simply stepped out for a breath of air. Still think I'm delusional? He asked mildly. Luna couldn't speak, couldn't think, couldn't process what she'd just witnessed. Her legs gave out, and she collapsed onto the dirty concrete, her world tilting on its axis. The first shift is always shocking, Garrett said, kneeling beside her. Your husband never showed you, did he? Marcus always was a coward. He wasn't a coward, Luna whispered through numb lips. No? Then why did he steal you away from your destined mate? Why did he run instead of fighting for the right to keep you? Why did he let you live 17 years thinking you were human when your blood sings with ancient power? 17 years. Luna and Marcus had been together 17 years, since she was 18 and he was 22. He'd swept her off her feet with a romance that felt like destiny, like they'd been searching for each other their whole lives. But if what Garrett was saying was true. The dreams, she breathed. What dreams? I used to have dreams about running through forests, about hunting under the moonlight. About. She swallowed hard. About a man with silver eyes who called my name. Garrett's expression sharpened. Damon. You were dreaming of Damon even while married to another. The mate bond can't be broken by distance or time, Luna. It can only be fulfilled or denied. I don't understand any of this. Then let me make it simple. Garrett pulled out his phone and showed her a photograph. This is Damon Blackthorne. Luna's breath caught. The man in the photo was devastatingly handsome in a way that made her think of fallen angels and dangerous promises. Dark hair, strong jaw, and those silver eyes that had haunted her dreams for as long as she could remember. She'd been dreaming of her husband's murderer. No, not murderer. According to Garrett's insane story, Damon was the man she'd been promised to since birth. The man Marcus had stolen her from. He's been waiting for you, Garrett continued. 17 years of watching from the shadows, knowing his mate was living with another man. Knowing she was bearing children that should have been his. My children are Marcus's children, Luna said fiercely. Are they? Garrett showed her another photo, this one of two young wolves, dark fur gleaming in moonlight. These were taken last month in the woods behind your old apartment building. Your cubs have been shifting, Luna. They've been answering the call of their wild blood. The photograph blurred as tears filled Luna's eyes. She knew those markings, had seen them in the way Maya tilted her head when listening to something no one else could hear. Had seen them in Kai's protective stance when he sensed danger. Her babies were werewolves. Her husband had been a werewolf. And somewhere out there, the most feared alpha in North America was coming to collect what he believed belonged to him. What does he want? She whispered. What he's always wanted, Garrett replied. His mate. His pack. His legacy. He pulled out the black envelope she dropped upstairs. You have until the next full moon to present yourself at Shadowmere Estate. 3 days, Luna. After that, Damon stops being patient. And if I refuse? Garrett's smile disappeared entirely. Then he comes for you. And when Damon Blackthorne decides to collect what's his, Mrs. Matthews, he doesn't take no for an answer. He'll take your cubs first, they're his blood, after all. Then he'll take you. He pressed the envelope into her trembling hands. The choice is yours. Come willingly and be welcomed as his mate and Luna. Refuse. He shrugged. Well. Let's just say Damon has been denied his birthright for 17 years. He's not inclined to be gentle with those who've kept it from him. As Garrett walked away, his parting words echoed in the cold air, 3 days, Luna. Make them count. Chapter 3. The rental car's engine wheezed as Luna navigated the winding mountain road, her knuckles white on the steering wheel. 3 days had passed since Garrett's revelation, 3 days of sleepless nights, forced smiles for the twins, and the constant weight of that black envelope burning in her purse. She'd tried everything to avoid this moment. Called every friend she had left, all 3 of them, but no one could hide a woman and 2 children from supernatural predators. She'd researched bus tickets to Canada, Mexico, anywhere beyond the reach of werewolf law, but Garrett's words haunted her. Your cubs are walking targets every moment they're unprotected. In the end, it came down to mathematics. Better to face one alpha who claimed ownership than dozens of pack leaders who saw her children as prizes to be won. Where are we going, Mama? Maya asked from her car seat, her dark eyes reflecting the dashboard lights like a cat's. Like a wolf's. To meet some family, Luna said, the lies sticking in her throat. The GPS had lost signal 20 miles ago, but somehow Luna knew exactly where to turn. Left at the dead oak tree. Right where the creek crossed under the road. Straight through the tunnel of evergreens that blocked out the December sun. It was like following a scent trail she couldn't smell, hearing a song she couldn't quite catch. Her body knew this path even though her mind insisted she'd never been here before. Mama, Kai said quietly. Do you smell that? Luna inhaled deeply, expecting mountain air and pine needles. Instead, her senses exploded with information she'd never been able to process before. Wood smoke from a dozen different fireplaces. Wild game, deer, rabbit, something larger and more dangerous. The musk of many bodies living in close proximity. And underneath it all, a scent that made her wolf-starved soul sing with recognition, strength, dominance, and something darker that spoke to parts of her she'd never acknowledged. I smell it, she whispered, understanding finally that whatever supernatural awakening Garrett had triggered was accelerating. Her human senses were dying, replaced by something ancient and predatory. The road crested a hill, and Luna's breath caught. Shadowmere Estate sprawled across the valley like something from a Gothic nightmare. The mansion was massive, 4 stories of black stone and iron, with towers that pierced the sky like accusations. Gargoyles perched on every corner, their stone eyes seeming to track the approaching car. Despite the early afternoon sun, the building seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. It looked like the kind of place where bad things happen to good people. "It's like a castle," Maya breathed, pressing her face to the window. "A scary castle," Kai added, but there was fascination in his voice rather than fear. Luna parked in the circular drive beside a fleet of expensive cars, Mercedes, BMWs, a Lamborghini that probably cost more than most people's houses. She was driving a rental with a cracked windshield and per-powered engine. The message was clear: you don't belong here. The moment Luna's feet touched the gravel, power hit her like a physical blow. The air itself felt alive, charged with something that made her skin prickle and her pulse race. Whatever dormant abilities she possessed responded to the supernatural energy saturating this place, awakening senses she'd never known she had. She could smell the individual scents of at least 30 people inside the mansion. Could hear heartbeats, conversations, the whisper of fabric against skin. Could feel eyes watching from windows she couldn't see. And over it all, one scent dominated: pine forests after rain, leather and smoke, and something indefinably male that made every feminine instinct she possessed sit up and take notice. Damon. Luna helped the twins out of their car seats, hyper-aware of how small and vulnerable they looked against the imposing backdrop of the estate. Maya clutched her stuffed rabbit while Kai pressed close to Luna's side, his 3-year-old bravado finally cracking. "I changed my mind," Luna whispered. "We should go home." But it was too late. The massive front door swung open without a sound, and Garrett Stone emerged wearing a perfectly tailored suit that probably cost more than Luna's monthly rent. "Right on time," he said, descending the stone steps with predatory grace. "Damon appreciates punctuality." "I want to see him alone first," Luna said. "Before I bring the children inside." Garrett's smile didn't reach his eyes. "I'm afraid that's not how this works. The cubs are part of the equation, Luna. They need to be formally acknowledged by the pack. They're not cubs." Luna snapped, pulling Maya and Kai closer. "They're children, and I won't have them treated like what they are." The voice came from behind Garrett, and Luna's heart stopped. Damon Blackthorne stepped into the afternoon light, and Luna understood why he was called the most feared alpha in North America. He was tall, at least 6'4", with the kind of broad-shouldered, narrow-hipped build that spoke of deadly physical power. His dark hair was slightly too long, as if he couldn't be bothered with conventional grooming, and his face was all sharp angles and harsh planes that should have been intimidating rather than devastatingly attractive. But it was his eyes that stole Luna's breath. Silver, like moonlight on water, and so intense she felt like he could see straight through to her soul. This was the man from her dreams. The face that had haunted her sleep for 17 years, calling to her across impossible distances. Her mate. "You're 3 years late," Damon said, his voice carrying the kind of quiet authority that made people obey without question. Those silver eyes moved over Luna with clinical assessment, like she was livestock being evaluated for breeding. "And you brought children." The dismissive tone sparked something dangerous in Luna's chest. "These children are my life. Where I go, they go." "Is that so?" Damon descended the remaining steps, moving with fluid grace that reminded Luna of apex predators. When he was close enough to touch, he stopped and inhaled deeply. His expression darkened. "You smell like him. Even after all this time, Marcus's scent clings to you like a claim." Heat flushed Luna's cheeks. "He was my husband." "He was a thief," Damon corrected. "And thieves pay for their crimes." Before Luna could respond, people began emerging from the mansion. Men and women of various ages, all sharing certain characteristics: 2 bright eyes, graceful movements, and an aura of barely leashed violence. The pack. They formed a loose circle around Luna and the twins, close enough to be threatening without being overtly aggressive. Luna's every maternal instinct screamed at her to grab her children and run, but there was nowhere to go. "Pack," Damon said, his voice carrying easily across the courtyard. "I present Luna Matthews, formerly promised to me, stolen by the traitor Marcus Shadowmere." His eyes never left Luna's face. "And her children." The way he said children made it clear he didn't consider them his responsibility or concern. A woman stepped forward from the circle, stunning in the way of predators, with platinum hair and ice-blue eyes that held nothing but hostility. "She doesn't smell right," the woman said, her voice carrying a subtle accent Luna couldn't place. "Too human. Too weak." "Careful, Serena," Damon warned. "That's still my intended mate you're insulting." But Serena wasn't finished. Her gaze dropped to the twins, who had pressed themselves against Luna's legs. "And these, mixed breeds. They'll weaken our bloodline." Maya whimpered, picking up on the adult tensions even if she didn't understand them. Kai stepped protectively in front of his sister, his small hands clenched into fists. "Don't talk about my children that way," Luna said, her voice deadly quiet. Serena laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Or what? You'll cry at me?" She took a step closer, and Luna caught her scent, aggression, contempt, and something else. Jealousy. This woman wanted Damon for herself. "I think," Serena continued, circling Luna like a shark scenting blood, "that our alpha deserves better than Marcus's leftovers. Perhaps we should test whether you're worthy of the Shadowmere name." The pack murmured agreement, their eyes gleaming with anticipation. Luna realized this was some kind of ritual, a test she was expected to pass or fail. "What kind of test?" she asked. Damon's smile was sharp as broken glass. "Combat, naturally. Serena will challenge you for the right to stand as my mate. If you win, the pack accepts you. If you lose..." He shrugged. "Well, you won't have to worry about pack politics anymore." "I'm not a fighter," Luna protested. "I don't know how." "Then you should have stayed hidden," Serena snarled, and without warning, she lunged. Luna had a split second to register the attack before Serena's fist connected with her jaw, sending her sprawling across the gravel. Pain exploded through her skull, and she heard the twins screaming her name. "Mama!" Maya's terrified cry cut through Luna's disorientation. She rolled to her side in time to see Serena advancing on her children, claws extending from perfectly manicured fingernails. "Perhaps I'll start with the cubs," Serena said conversationally. "Show them what happens to inferior bloodlines." "No." The word tore from Luna's throat with inhuman force. Something inside her chest exploded, a dam bursting, a cage door shattering, 17 years of suppressed instincts finally breaking free. Power flooded her system like liquid fire, and the world suddenly became hyperreal. She could smell each individual pack member's fear and excitement. Could hear heartbeats accelerating, could see the tiny muscle movements that telegraphed Serena's next attack. But most importantly, she could feel the wild, savage thing that had been sleeping in her soul finally waking up. And it was furious. Luna's bones began to crack and reshape, but unlike Garrett's controlled transformation, this was violence incarnate. Her spine curved impossibly, her jaw elongated with sounds like breaking kindling, and her vision exploded into perfect clarity as her eyes shifted to reflect available light. The pack gasped and stepped back as Luna's first transformation ripped through her body with unstoppable force. Her clothes tore as her frame expanded, muscle and bone restructuring themselves into something built for war. When she rose on 4 powerful legs, she was no ordinary werewolf. Luna's wolf form was massive, larger than any she-wolf should be, with midnight black fur that seemed to absorb light. Her eyes burned amber gold in her transformed face, and when she opened her mouth, her canine teeth were longer and sharper than should have been possible. She looked like something from the pack's oldest legends. Something that should have been extinct. Serena took a step backward, her earlier confidence evaporating. That's not possible. She's human-born." But Luna was beyond hearing, beyond reasoning. The wolf had taken control completely, and its only concern was the threat to her cubs. She launched herself at Serena with inhuman speed, her claws raking deep furrows across the other woman's chest before Serena could react. Serena shrieked and tried to shift, but Luna was faster, stronger, more violent than anyone had expected. The fight was over in seconds. Serena lay pinned beneath Luna's massive paws, whimpering as Luna's jaws hovered inches from her throat. One bite would end it permanently. Enough. Damon's voice cut through Luna's red haze like a physical blow. She turned toward him, still in full wolf form, and saw something that made her pause. Damon wasn't looking at her with fear or revulsion. He was looking at her with fascination. And hunger. Shift back, he commanded, but there was something almost gentle in his tone. Your cubs are safe. No one else will threaten them. The mention of her children broke through Luna's rage. She could hear them crying, calling for her, and the sound made her heart shatter. They were seeing their mother as a monster for the first time. Luna closed her eyes and reached for her human form, unsure how to control the transformation. But somehow, instinct guided her back. Her bones shifted and compressed, fur receded into pale skin, and within moments she was human again. Naked, covered in blood that wasn't hers, kneeling in the gravel while the pack stared at her in stunned silence. Damon shrugged out of his jacket and draped it around her shoulders, the gesture surprisingly gentle for someone who just watched her nearly kill his pack member. Interesting, he murmured, his fingers tracing the claw marks she'd left on his chest during her transformation, marks she didn't remember making. Marcus never told me his little human had royal blood. Luna looked up at him, still dazed from the shift. What? Damon's smile was sharp and satisfied, like a puzzle piece had finally clicked into place. Your wolf form, Luna. The size, the power, the way you moved. He helped her to her feet, his hands lingering on her arms. Only direct descendants of the original moon goddess bloodline shift like that. He leaned close enough that his breath warmed her ear. Marcus didn't just steal my mate. He stole the future alpha queen of all werewolves. The pack dropped to their knees around them, and Luna realized her life had just become infinitely more complicated. Chapter 4. The guest suite at Shadowmere Estate was larger than Luna's entire Chicago apartment, complete with a sitting area, kitchenette, and bedroom with windows that overlooked the dark forest beyond. Under normal circumstances, Luna would have been grateful for the luxury. But normal had died the moment she'd shifted into something out of Legends. 3 days had passed since her violent transformation, and Luna still couldn't control the wolf that had awakened inside her. It prowled beneath her skin like a caged animal, responding to every perceived threat with bared teeth and barely contained violence. When Serena had made the mistake of sitting too close to Maya at breakfast, Luna's eyes had shifted to Amber and she'd growled, at a woman who could probably tear her apart. The pack's reaction had been immediate and telling. Some dropped their gazes in submission, others watched her with calculating interest, and a few radiated the kind of hostility that suggested they were planning something unpleasant. Only Damon seemed unaffected by her newfound volatility. If anything, he appeared fascinated by each loss of control, like she was a puzzle he was determined to solve. Mama's eyes are glowing again, Maya whispered from the couch where she and Kai were pretending to watch cartoons on the massive television. Luna pressed her palms against her eyes, trying to force the wolf back down. I'm sorry, babies. Mama's still learning how to be different. It's okay, Kai said solemnly. We're different too. Yesterday I heard Mr. Garrett talking to someone 3 floors down. Luna's blood chilled. She'd been so focused on her own transformation that she'd barely noticed the changes in her children. But now that she was paying attention, the signs were impossible to ignore. Maya's eyes reflected light like mirrors in dim rooms. Kai moved with the fluid grace of someone twice his age. Both children seemed to know things they shouldn't, which pack members disliked them, when someone was lying, where danger lurked before it revealed itself. They were shifting earlier than expected, their supernatural heritage accelerating under the stress of pack life. A soft knock interrupted her spiraling thoughts. Come in. Damon entered carrying a silver tray laden with food that smelled like heaven after days of Luna's nervous stomach rejecting most meals. He'd abandoned his intimidating all-black attire for dark jeans and a gray sweater that emphasized his broad shoulders, making him look less like a supernatural dictator and more like a man who happened to be devastatingly attractive. The contradiction was unsettling. "You missed lunch again," he said, setting the tray on the coffee table. "And breakfast. And most of dinner last night. I haven't been hungry. Your wolf needs fuel, especially during the adjustment period. Starving yourself won't make this easier." Luna watched him arrange the dishes with economical movements: roast beef, fresh bread, vegetables that looked like they'd come from some organic paradise. Simple food, but prepared with obvious care. "Why are you bringing me meals personally?" she asked. "Don't you have servants for that?" Damon's smile held no warmth. "I have pack members who serve various functions. But I don't trust anyone else with your food." The implication hit her like a physical blow. "You think someone would poison me?" "I think some members of my pack view you as a threat to their position. Royal bloodline trumps pack hierarchy, Luna. There are wolves here who've spent decades climbing the social ladder, only to have their power threatened by your existence. I don't want their power. I just want to keep my children safe. What you want is irrelevant. What you are changes everything." Damon settled into the chair across from her, close enough that she could smell his distinctive scent, pine forests and leather, and something uniquely male that made her wolf sit up and take notice. The reaction disturbed her more than she cared to admit. "The pack expects me to complete the betrothal ceremony within the week," he continued conversationally, as if discussing the weather. "Ancient law demands it, now that you've revealed your true nature." Luna's appetite vanished entirely. "And if I refuse? Then I execute you for the crime of allowing Marcus to steal what belonged to me, and I claim your cubs as my legal heirs." His silver eyes never left her face. Pack law is quite clear on the matter. The casual way he discussed killing her made Luna's wolf snarl with outrage. She felt her canines extend slightly before she forced them back. "You would murder their mother and then expect them to accept you as a father? Children are adaptable. They'd learn to love me eventually." But something in his tone suggested the words tasted bitter, and Luna caught the scent of deception. Damon might have the legal right to execute her, but the idea clearly bothered him more than he wanted to admit. "There is a third option," he said after a long moment. "Which is? You agree to the betrothal willingly. We mate as intended, unite our bloodlines, and your cubs become my heirs through marriage rather than adoption." Luna stared at him, searching his face for some sign of mockery. "You're serious?" "Completely. You want me to marry a man who just threatened to kill me and steal my children?" "I want you to accept the reality of your situation," Damon corrected. "You're not in Chicago anymore, Luna. Human laws don't apply here. Pack law is absolute, and pack law says you belong to me." Belong to him. The phrase should have filled her with revulsion, but instead, something deep in her chest responded with traitorous heat. Her wolf recognized the truth in his words even as her human mind rejected them. "I need time to think. You have until the next full moon. 4 days." After Damon left, Luna tried to eat but couldn't manage more than a few bites. The twins picked at their food as well, sensing her distress with supernatural accuracy. "Are we in danger, Mama?" Maya asked quietly. Luna looked at her daughter, really looked, and saw golden flecks in her dark eyes that hadn't been there a week ago. Maya was shifting, her wolf nature awakening in response to the pack's proximity. "I won't let anyone hurt you," Luna promised. "Ever." But as she tucked the twins into bed that night, Luna wondered if she was making promises she couldn't keep. Sleep was impossible. Every time Luna closed her eyes, her enhanced hearing picked up sounds from throughout the mansion, conversations in languages she didn't recognize, footsteps in empty hallways, the distant sound of something that might have been howling. The pack never truly rested, she realized. They existed in a constant state of alert, ready for violence at a moment's notice. Near midnight, she heard crying from the twins' room. Luna found Maya sitting up in bed, tears streaming down her face as she clutched her stuffed rabbit. Kai was beside her, rubbing her back with the patient dedication of someone far older than 3. Bad dream? Luna asked softly. Maya nodded. There were big wolves chasing us, and you weren't there to protect us, and we were all alone and scared. Anne. Shoo, baby girl. It was just a dream. But as Luna held her daughter, she caught an unfamiliar scent in the room, pine and leather and safety. Damon had been here. Before she could process that realization, a soft knock interrupted the moment. Luna tensed, preparing for another confrontation, but when the door opened, Damon's expression was gentle rather than threatening. I heard crying, he said quietly. Is she all right? Maya peeked over Luna's shoulder, her tears already drying. I had a scary dream. Dreams can't hurt you, Damon said, settling carefully on the edge of the bed. But they can feel very real, can't they? Maya nodded solemnly. Would you like to know a secret about scary dreams? Damon asked, his voice taking on the same tone Marcus had used for bedtime stories. Another nod. Scary dreams only have power if you face them alone. But you're not alone, are you? You have your mama, and your brother, and... He paused, as if weighing his words carefully. And you have me. I won't let the scary things in your dreams hurt you. Maya studied his face with the intensity only children could manage. Promise? I promise. The simple word carried weight beyond its syllables, and Luna realized Damon meant it with every fiber of his being. Whatever his feelings toward her, he would protect her children with his life. As Damon helped settle Maya back under her blankets, Luna caught sight of Kai watching the alpha with fascination rather than fear. Mr. Damon? Kai's voice was barely above a whisper. My eyes keep changing colors. Is that normal? Completely normal, Damon assured him. Your wolf is waking up. It's exciting and scary at the same time, isn't it? Kai nodded eagerly. Sometimes I can smell things really far away. And yesterday I heard Mama thinking even though she didn't say anything out loud. Luna's breath caught. Kai was developing telepathic abilities along with his enhanced senses. That's a very special gift, Damon said seriously. But it's important to learn control. Would you like me to teach you? The hope in Kai's eyes was almost painful to witness. Really? You do that? Of course. Tomorrow, after breakfast, we'll start with the basics. Luna watched the interaction with growing confusion. This gentle, patient man bore no resemblance to the cold alpha who'd threatened to execute her hours earlier. With her children, Damon's mask slipped completely, revealing someone who understood exactly what they were going through. After the twins fell back asleep, Luna walked Damon to the door. Thank you, she said quietly. You didn't have to do that. They're cubs dealing with their first shift. Of course I had to help them. Even though they're not your cubs. Something flickered in Damon's silver eyes, pain, longing, regret. They could be, he said finally. If you'd let them be. Before Luna could respond, he was gone, leaving her staring at empty air and wondering if she'd imagined the vulnerability in his voice. The next morning, Luna woke to find the twins gone from their beds. Panic seized her until she heard laughter from somewhere deep in the mansion. Following the sound, she found Damon in what appeared to be a private gym, teaching Kai how to control his enhanced strength while Maya cheered from the sidelines. The key is intent, Damon was explaining as Kai attempted to lift a small weight. Your wolf wants to use all its power all the time, but sometimes you need human strength for human tasks. Kai's face was screwed up in concentration, and Luna realized he was trying not to crush the weight in his small hands. Good, Damon praised. Now try picking up your sister's toy without breaking it. For the next hour, Luna watched in amazement as Damon patiently guided her children through exercises designed to help them manage their supernatural abilities. He answered their endless questions without irritation, demonstrated techniques with infinite care, and celebrated each small victory like it was a major achievement. This was the man she was supposed to fear? That evening, after the twins were asleep, Luna decided to explore the mansion's library. If she was going to survive in this world, she needed to understand it. The library was massive, with floor-to-ceiling shelves filled with books that looked ancient and valuable. Most were about werewolf history, pack law, and supernatural politics. One book in particular caught her attention, The Shadowmere Legacy, A History. According to the introduction, it had been written by Marcus's grandfather, chronicling the rise and fall of one of the oldest werewolf bloodlines in North America. Luna was several chapters in when she found the section about Marcus himself. The author, clearly writing before Marcus's betrayal, described him as the heir apparent, blessed with unusual charm and intelligence, destined to lead the pack into a new era of prosperity. But there were other references too. Mentions of Marcus's friendship with rival pack leaders. His business trips that kept him away from Shadowmere for weeks at a time. His romantic entanglements with human women that his grandfather clearly disapproved of. Luna was frowning over a particularly cryptic passage about outside influences corrupting the bloodline when she noticed something odd. Several pages appeared to have been torn out, leaving only ragged edges behind. Someone had deliberately removed information from this book. Curious now, Luna examined the damaged binding more closely. Hidden in the spine, barely visible, was a folded piece of paper. Her heart racing, she carefully extracted what appeared to be a letter written in Marcus's familiar handwriting. If you're reading this, I'm probably dead, and you've discovered the truth about what I really am. I'm sorry, Luna. I'm sorry for the lies, for the deception, for the danger I've brought into your life. But most of all, I'm sorry for what I'm about to tell you. I didn't fall in love with you by accident. I was hired to seduce you. Luna's hands shook as she continued reading. Damon's enemies within the pack offered me a fortune to steal his intended mate. They said it would weaken his authority, make him vulnerable to challenge. They were right, an alpha without his destined mate is incomplete, and the pack can sense that weakness. I told myself I was doing it for noble reasons. Damon was cold, controlling, everything an alpha shouldn't be. You deserved better than a loveless political marriage. But the truth is, I did it for the money. For the chance to live as a human instead of a wolf. For the opportunity to escape my birthright and build a different life. I thought I could take their payment, steal you away, and then actually fall in love with you. Make it real retroactively. And God help me, Luna, I did fall in love with you. Completely. Desperately. The kind of love that made me forget everything else, my pack, my family, my duty. You and our children became my whole world. But that doesn't change what I am. A traitor. A thief. A man who destroyed his alpha's life for 30 pieces of silver. If something happens to me, if Damon finds us, don't blame yourself. You were innocent in all this. You were just a woman who fell in love with a liar. Take care of our cubs. And if Damon offers you mercy, take it. He's not the monster I painted him to be. I just needed you to believe he was so you wouldn't want to go back. I love you. I'm sorry. Marcus. The letter fluttered from Luna's numb fingers. Everything, her entire marriage, her children's conception, 17 years of what she'd thought was destined love, had been built on a lie. Marcus hadn't rescued her from an unwanted betrothal. He'd kidnapped her for money. And Damon. God, what had she done to Damon? He'd waited 17 years for a mate who'd been stolen from him by a man he'd trusted. 17 years of watching his pack question his strength, his worthiness, his ability to lead. 17 years of believing his destined mate had chosen another man over him. Now you know. Luna spun around to find Damon standing in the library doorway, his silver eyes wild with an emotion she couldn't name. Hurt. Fury. Something that looked almost like relief. Your precious Marcus was nothing but a hired thief, he said, stepping into the room with predatory grace. His voice was soft, deadly, completely without mercy. And you were always mine. Chapter 5. The silence stretched between them like a live wire, dangerous and electric. Luna stared at Damon, her mind reeling from Marcus's confession, while Damon watched her with those penetrating silver eyes that seemed to see straight through to her shattered soul. "You knew," she whispered. "All this time, you knew Marcus was paid to steal me." "I suspected." Damon stepped deeper into the library, his movements controlled despite the barely leashed violence radiating from him. Marcus was never subtle about his sudden wealth after leaving Shadowmere. New clothes, expensive tastes, a lifestyle far beyond what a rogue wolf could afford. Luna pressed her hands to her temples, trying to process the magnitude of Marcus's betrayal. 17 years. I lived 17 years believing he saved me from an unwanted marriage. When in reality, he condemned you to 17 years of living a lie. Damon's voice held no satisfaction in being right, only a bone-deep weariness that spoke of old wounds never properly healed. "Do you know what it's like, Luna? Watching your mate, your destined other half, choose another man? Knowing she's bearing his children when they should have been yours?" The pain in his voice made Luna's chest ache. She'd been so focused on her own betrayal, her own shattered illusions, that she hadn't considered what Marcus's theft had cost Damon. "I didn't choose him," she said quietly. "I thought I was choosing love over duty. I had no idea that you were already in love with me." The words hung between them like an accusation. Luna opened her mouth to deny it, but the lie wouldn't come. Those dreams that had haunted her marriage, silver eyes in the darkness, a voice calling her name across impossible distances, the bone-deep certainty that she belonged somewhere else, they hadn't been random fantasies. They'd been her soul calling out to its other half. "The mate bond," Damon said, reading her silence correctly. "It can't be severed by distance or deception. Your wolf knew, even when your human mind didn't." Before Luna could respond, a sound made both of them freeze. Somewhere in the mansion, glass was breaking. Not the accidental crash of a dropped cup, but the deliberate shattering of multiple windows simultaneously. Damon's entire body went rigid, his nostrils flaring as he scented the night air. "Crimson wolves," he snarled, his human facade cracking to reveal the predator beneath. "They're here." "Who are the Crimson Wolves?" "Marcus's allies. The ones who paid him to steal you." Damon was already moving, pulling his phone from his pocket. "They've been waiting for an opportunity to strike while my pack is divided over your presence." A howl echoed through the mansion, wild, savage, and definitely not human. Luna's blood turned to ice as she realized the sound was coming from upstairs. From the direction of the twins' room. "My children," she breathed. Damon was already running, Luna close behind, both of them taking the stairs 3 at a time. The hallway leading to the guest suite was chaos, broken glass, overturned furniture, and the acrid smell of spilled blood. The door to the twins' room hung open, revealing empty beds and signs of a struggle. "Kai!" Luna screamed. "Maya! Here!" Kai's voice came from the closet, muffled but alive. Luna yanked open the door to find her son crammed into the small space, his eyes wide with terror but unharmed. "Where's your sister?" Luna demanded, pulling him into her arms. "The bad lady took her," Kai sobbed against Luna's shoulder. "She smelled like Daddy but different. Mean. She said Maya had to come with her to fix something broken." Luna's heart stopped. "What lady?" But before Kai could answer, another howl shattered the night, this one much closer. Damon appeared in the doorway, his face grim. "The estate is surrounded," he said. "At least 20 Crimson Wolves, maybe more. They're using the attack as cover for the kidnapping." "We have to find Maya," Luna said, but Damon was already shaking his head. "First we survive. Then we hunt." His eyes began to glow silver in the dim light. "Can you fight, Luna? Really fight, not just react to threats?" Luna looked down at Kai, her 3-year-old son who was trembling in her arms, then at the empty bed where Maya should have been sleeping safely. The wolf inside her snarled with maternal fury, demanding blood for blood. "Yes," she said, and meant it with every fiber of her being. "Good." Damon pulled a small device from his pocket, some kind of panic button. "This will summon my pack." But we need to hold our position until they arrive. What about Kai? Safe room. Every pack house has one. Damon led them down a hidden corridor Luna had never noticed, pressing his palm against what looked like solid wall. A section swung inward, revealing a steel-reinforced chamber stocked with supplies. He'll be protected here. Luna knelt to Kai's eye level, her hands gentle despite the violence churning in her chest. Baby, I need you to stay here until Mama comes back, okay? Don't open the door for anyone except me or Mr. Damon. Kai's lip trembled, but he nodded with the bravery of someone far older than his years. Bring Maya home, Mama. I promise. As the hidden door sealed behind them, Luna felt her human restraints finally snap. The wolf that had been prowling beneath her skin all week exploded to the surface, bringing with it senses so sharp they were almost painful. She could smell the crimson wolves now, 23 distinct scents, all reeking of violence and territorial aggression. Could hear their heartbeats, their whispered communications, the soft pad of paws on hardwood floors. They're inside, she said, her voice already roughening with the change. Let them come. Damon's transformation began as they moved through the mansion, his bones cracking and reshaping with practiced ease. It's time they learned why I'm called the most feared alpha in North America. The first attack came as they reached the main staircase. 3 wolves launched themselves from the shadows, massive creatures with red-tinged fur and eyes like burning coals. Luna's body moved before her mind could process the threat, her partially shifted form meeting the lead attacker mid-leap. Her claws, longer and sharper than any normal werewolf's, opened the crimson wolf's throat in a spray of arterial blood. The creature dropped without a sound, but its packmates pressed the attack. That's when Luna discovered what it truly meant to fight beside a mate. Damon moved like liquid violence, his massive black wolf form cutting through their enemies with surgical precision. But more than that, Luna found she could anticipate his every move, could position herself to protect his blind spots without conscious thought. They flowed around each other like dance partners who'd rehearsed for years, each supporting and amplifying the other's strengths. When a crimson wolf tried to flank Damon, Luna was there to intercept. When 3 attackers rushed Luna simultaneously, Damon appeared like a dark angel of death, his jaws crushing spines with mechanical efficiency. The sexual tension that had been building between them for days ignited into something primal and undeniable. This was what mating bonds were meant for, not just reproduction, but perfect synchronization in battle. 2 halves of a lethal whole, protecting what mattered most. But for every crimson wolf they dropped, 2 more seemed to take its place. The mansion was a war zone now, with sounds of battle coming from every direction as Damon's pack engaged the invaders throughout the building. There are too many, Luna panted during a brief lull, her human form streaked with blood that wasn't hers. It's a coordinated assault, Damon agreed, wiping crimson from his claws. They're not just here to kill me. They want something specific. The realization hit Luna like a physical blow. Maya. They took Maya to draw us out, make us vulnerable. Before Damon could respond, a new scent invaded Luna's hypersensitive nostrils. This one was familiar in a way that made her stomach lurch, Marcus's scent, but altered. Feminine. Tinged with madness and grief. A woman emerged from the shadows at the far end of the corridor, her auburn hair wild around a face that was hauntingly beautiful despite the insanity burning in her green eyes. She moved with Marcus's fluid grace, carried herself with his unconscious arrogance. Hello, sister-in-law, the woman said, her voice carrying Marcus's cadence but pitched with feminine malice. I don't believe we've been properly introduced. I'm Elena Shadowmere. Marcus's twin sister. Luna's blood turned to ice. Twin sister. That explained the similar scent, the familiar mannerisms. But it also explained something else, the bitter hatred radiating from Elena like poison. Where's my daughter? Luna demanded. Elena smiled, and the expression transformed her beautiful features into something nightmare-worthy. Safe. For now. Though I'm afraid her continued well-being depends entirely on your cooperation. What do you want? Justice. Elena began to pace, her movements predatory and wrong, like a broken puppet trying to remember how to be human. My brother was a good man before you corrupted him. Pure of heart, loyal to his pack, destined for greatness. Then he met you, and everything changed. I didn't corrupt anyone. Liar. Elena's scream echoed through the mansion, and Luna caught the scent of madness rolling off her in waves. You seduced him. Turned him against his own kind. Made him betray everything he was supposed to protect. Damon stepped closer to Luna, his body radiating protective menace. Elena, you're not thinking clearly. Marcus made his own choices. Shut up. Elena's eyes flashed gold as her wolf pressed close to the surface. This is your fault too, Alpha. If you'd been stronger, if you'd protected what was yours, my brother would still be alive. Luna realized with growing horror that Elena wasn't just grief-stricken, she was completely unhinged. The kind of madness that made people dangerous beyond reason. Where is Maya? Luna asked again, putting every ounce of alpha authority she could muster into her voice. Elena's mad smile widened. Somewhere special. Somewhere sacred. The old cemetery where our ancestors sleep, where the moonlight burns brightest during the dark rituals. What rituals? But even as Luna asked, she knew the answer would destroy her. Purification, Elena whispered, her eyes gleaming with fanatic fervor. The bloodline has been polluted, tainted by human weakness. But Maya, sweet little Maya carries pure Shadowmere blood despite her Mongol father. Her sacrifice will cleanse the sins of our family, restore the power Marcus threw away for you. Luna's vision grayed at the edges. You're talking about killing my daughter. I'm talking about saving our people, Elena corrected. One innocent death to prevent the corruption of an entire bloodline. Marcus would understand, if he weren't already burning in hell for his crimes. The casual way Elena discussed murdering a 3-year-old child shattered the last of Luna's human restraint. Her wolf exploded to the surface with a roar that shook the mansion's foundations. But Elena was already gone, vanishing into the shadows like the nightmare she was. Damon was at Luna's side instantly, his hands gentle despite the violence they just shared. We'll find her, he promised. Whatever it takes, we'll bring Maya home. But before they could begin planning their rescue, a piece of paper fluttered down from somewhere above them, thick parchment that reeked of blood and madness. Luna picked it up with trembling hands, her enhanced vision easily reading the message scrawled in what was unmistakably blood. Come alone to the old cemetery at midnight, or watch your daughter's pure blood wash away her father's sins. No pack. No alpha. No backup. Just a mother's love against a sister's justice. 1 hour, Luna. Don't disappoint me. E. Luna stared at the bloody message, her heart hammering against her ribs. 1 hour to reach a cemetery she'd never seen, to face a madwoman who wanted to murder her child in the name of supernatural justice. And she had to do it alone, or Elena would kill Maya out of spite. The choice was no choice at all. If you are enjoying this video, do well to like this video and subscribe to this channel so you won't miss out on videos like this. Chapter 6. The cemetery lay 15 miles from Shadowmere Estate, hidden in a grove of ancient oaks that seemed to whisper secrets to the winter wind. Luna had never been here before, but her enhanced senses guided her through the darkness with supernatural precision. Every step felt like walking toward her own execution. She'd left Damon behind, as Elena's message demanded. Left him pacing the mansion like a caged beast, his silver eyes wild with the need to protect his mate and the child he was beginning to love. But Elena had been clear, come alone, or Maya dies. The old cemetery was smaller than Luna had expected, maybe 50 headstones scattered across a hillside that sloped down toward a frozen creek. Most of the markers were so weathered their inscriptions had worn away, leaving only anonymous monuments to the forgotten dead. But at the center of the cemetery, where the moonlight seemed to gather and intensify, stood something that made Luna's blood run cold. An altar. Ancient stone carved with symbols that hurt to look at directly, stained dark with substances Luna preferred not to identify. Around its base, candles flickered in the wind, their flames casting dancing shadows that looked almost alive. And bound to the altar with silver chains was Maya. Luna's daughter lay unconscious on the cold stone, her small body dwarfed by the massive altar. She looked so fragile, so innocent, dressed in the purple pajamas with unicorns that she'd insisted on wearing to bed. Blood trickled from a shallow cut on her forehead, not life-threatening, but clearly meant to demonstrate Elena's willingness to harm a child. "You came." Elena stepped out from behind a weathered mausoleum, her auburn hair gleaming in the moonlight. She'd changed from her earlier casual clothes into something that looked like it belonged in a horror movie, a flowing black robe embroidered with silver symbols that matched those on the altar. "Let her go," Luna said, her voice steady despite the terror clawing at her chest. "Your fight is with me, not an innocent child." Elena laughed, the sound echoing off the headstones like the cry of a carrion bird. "Innocent? Oh, sister dear, you have so much to learn about innocence." "Don't call me sister." "But we are sisters, aren't we? Both of us loved by the same man, both of us betrayed by his lies." Elena began to circle the altar, her fingers trailing over the ancient stone. "Though I suppose, loved, is a strong word for what Marcus felt for you." Luna forced herself not to react to the barb. Elena was clearly unstable, possibly psychotic, and engaging with her delusions would only make things worse. "What do you want, Elena?" "Justice." Elena pulled a silver blade from beneath her robes, not just silver-plated, but pure silver that gleamed with its own internal light. Marcus's death was just the beginning. The real crime was what he did to Damon, to our pack, to the natural order of things. Marcus made his own choices. Marcus was manipulated. Elena's scream sent night birds fleeing from the trees. "Do you think he came up with the plan to steal you on his own? Do you think a 22-year-old wolf had the connections to negotiate with rival packs, the cunning to orchestrate such an elaborate deception?" Luna's stomach dropped. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying Marcus was never the mastermind, sister dear. He was just the pretty face, the charming smile that lured you away from where you belonged." Elena's mad smile was triumphant. "The whole plan was mine." The words hit Luna like a physical blow. "That's impossible. You were just a child when Marcus and I met." "I was 17. Old enough to see how Damon's power was growing, how he was uniting the packs under his banner. Old enough to understand that a strong alpha with his destined mate would be unstoppable." Elena's eyes gleamed with fanatic fervor. But an alpha without his mate? Weakened, distracted, vulnerable to challenge? That was a different story entirely. Luna felt the ground shifting beneath her feet as Elena's confession rewrote everything she thought she knew about her marriage. "You orchestrated the whole thing," she whispered. "Every single detail." Elena punctuated each word with a step closer to the altar, to Maya's helpless form. "I found the Crimson Wolves, negotiated the payment, coached Marcus on exactly what to say to make you fall in love with him. I even helped him practice his human mannerisms so he could pass for normal." "But why? If Damon is so dangerous, why not just kill him directly?" Elena's laugh was bitter as winter wind. "Because martyrs inspire loyalty, sister dear. But an alpha who can't protect his own mate? Who gets cuckolded by a subordinate and then loses his pack's respect? That kind of weakness destroys from the inside." Luna's enhanced hearing caught the sound of engines in the distance, vehicles approaching fast. But Elena seemed oblivious, lost in her confession. 17 years, Elena continued, her voice dreamy with satisfaction. 17 years of watching Damon struggle to maintain authority while his pack whispered about the mate who chose another man. 17 years of building alliances with other packs who saw weakness in an unmated alpha. And Marcus? What about your brother's feelings? Marcus was collateral damage. Elena's casual dismissal of her twin's life chilled Luna's blood. He was supposed to seduce you, steal you away, and then abandon you once Damon was sufficiently weakened. Instead, the fool actually fell in love. The engines were getting closer now. Luna prayed it was Damon and the Shadowmere pack, but Elena's confidence suggested she was expecting company. "That's when everything went wrong," Elena said, raising the silver blade to catch the moonlight. Marcus refused to leave you. Got possessive, protective, started talking about actually building a life together. He was supposed to be a weapon, not a lovesick puppy. So you killed him. Not directly. But I made sure his enemies knew exactly where to find him when his guard was down. Elena's smile was pure poison. Cancer is such a convenient cover for magical assassination, don't you think? Luna's vision went red. Marcus's illness, his agonizing decline, the experimental treatments that never worked, it had all been murder. Elena had orchestrated her brother's death as coldly as she'd orchestrated Luna's kidnapping. You're insane, Luna breathed. I'm committed, Elena corrected. And tonight, I finish what I started 17 years ago. She pressed the silver blade to Maya's throat, and Luna's daughter stirred with a soft whimper that broke Luna's heart. The blood moon rises in minutes, Elena said, glancing at the sky where the full moon was indeed taking on a reddish tinge. According to the old rituals, killing Damon's heir during the blood moon will sever his connection to the pack permanently. He'll lose his alpha powers, become just another wolf. Maya isn't Damon's heir, Luna said desperately. Isn't she? The moment you complete the mating bond, she becomes his adopted daughter. Pack law is very clear about inheritance. Elena's eyes gleamed with triumph. But you're right to quibble over details. After all, I have backup. Luna's blood turned to ice as more figures emerged from the shadows. Crimson wolves, their red-tinged fur marking them as members of the rival pack. And between them. Kai, Luna whispered. Her son was conscious but clearly terrified, his small hands bound behind his back as a massive crimson wolf held him in place. His dark eyes met Luna's across the cemetery, and she saw her own fear reflected in his 3-year-old face. You see the beauty of my plan? Elena asked conversationally. Either child's death will complete the ritual. Maya as Damon's heir through adoption, or Kai as his heir through your mating bond. The magic doesn't discriminate based on biology. Luna's wolf roared to the surface, power flooding her system as maternal fury overrode every other consideration. But Elena was ready for that reaction. She warned, pressing the silver blade harder against Maya's throat. A thin line of blood appeared, and Maya's eyes fluttered open in confusion and pain. One wrong move, and I open her throat. Then I start on little Kai. The sound of approaching vehicles grew louder, and Elena smiled. Right on schedule. My allies have been very reliable. But as the first vehicle crested the hill, Luna's enhanced vision picked out details that made her heart leap with desperate hope. Black SUVs with Shadowmere pack symbols. Damon had ignored Elena's demand and come anyway. Elena saw them too, and her expression shifted from confident to furious. No matter, she snarled. The ritual doesn't require privacy, just death. She raised the silver blade above Maya's chest, preparing for a killing blow that would sever Damon's power forever. That's when Luna's true heritage finally awakened. The change that ripped through her body wasn't like her previous transformations. This was power beyond pack politics, beyond alpha dominance, beyond anything the modern werewolf world had seen in centuries. Luna's wolf form exploded outward, but instead of the large black she-wolf she'd become before, something else emerged. Something that glowed with its own internal light, that stood nearly as tall as a horse, that radiated power so ancient and pure it made the very air shimmer. Her fur was silver-white like moonbeams, her eyes burned gold like stars, and when she howled, the sound carried notes that human ears couldn't process. The moon goddess bloodline. Not just descended from it, Luna was the direct heir to the first werewolf, the child of legend who could command any pack, any alpha, any supernatural creature that drew power from the lunar cycle. Elena stumbled backward, her confidence evaporating in the face of something that existed in pack mythology but had never been seen in living memory. Impossible, she breathed. You're just human-born. You can't be. But Luna was beyond human speech now. The goddess wolf didn't need words to communicate her intent. Elena held up the silver blade like a talisman. Stay back. I'll kill her. I'll kill them both. Luna's enhanced senses picked up Damon's scent as he and the pack spread out around the cemetery. He was close enough to strike, but not close enough to save Maya if Elena followed through on her threat. That's when Elena revealed the true depth of her planning. You think you can intimidate me with pretty lights and glowing fur? She laughed. I've planned for every contingency, including your little transformation. She gestured, and the crimson wolves moved with military precision. Within seconds, both children were in immediate danger, Maya still bound to the altar with Elena's blade at her throat, and Kai held by a wolf whose claws were extended at his small neck. Choose, Elena commanded. You can save one, but not both. Which child dies, Luna? Which one do you sacrifice to save the other? Luna's goddess-enhanced mind could process dozens of variables simultaneously, could see every possible outcome, every potential strategy. But in the end, it came down to an impossible choice between her children's lives. As she hesitated, paralyzed by the weight of decision, Damon emerged from the tree-line with the full Shadowmere pack behind him. His silver eyes met hers across the cemetery, and she saw her own anguish reflected in his face. Elena saw him too, and her mad smile returned. Too late, Alpha, she called out triumphantly. The blood moon rises, and I've already cut the child. Luna's heart stopped as she saw fresh blood on Elena's blade, saw Maya's small body convulse against the silver chains. The ritual had begun. Chapter 7. The blood moon hung directly overhead, casting everything in hellish crimson light as Elena's blade sliced across Maya's small arm. The child's cry of pain echoed through the cemetery, but it was nothing compared to the sound that followed, a vibration that seemed to come from the earth itself, from the very bones of the world. Power. Ancient, terrible, and completely beyond Elena's control. Luna watched in horror as dark magic swirled around the altar like a living thing, drawn by Maya's spilled blood. But instead of the controlled ritual Elena had planned, the magic reacted to something unexpected, the moon goddess bloodline running through Maya's veins. No, Elena whispered, her face going pale as the magic she'd summoned began to turn on her. It's not supposed to. The crimson energy that was meant to sever Damon's connection to his pack instead latched onto Maya's goddess heritage like a starving parasite. But rather than weakening Damon, it began amplifying his power exponentially, feeding off Luna's awakened bloodline through their incomplete mate bond. Damon staggered as supernatural energy flooded through him, his silver eyes blazing like stars as his alpha abilities magnified beyond anything the werewolf world had ever seen. Luna could feel it through their connection, power so vast it threatened to tear him apart from the inside. But the magic demanded balance, and it was draining Maya's life force to fuel the amplification. Luna's daughter convulsed against the silver chains, her small body growing paler by the second as the ritual consumed her. Her heartbeat grew weaker, more irregular, and Luna realized with sick horror that Maya was dying. Stop it! Luna roared, her goddess form radiating light that competed with the blood moon. Stop the ritual. I can't. Elena screamed back, genuine terror replacing her earlier confidence. It's beyond my control. The magic is. Elena's words cut off in a shriek of agony as the dark energy she'd summoned turned on its summoner. Crimson flames engulfed her body, and she burned from the inside out, consumed by the very forces she'd tried to command. Her dying scream echoed off the headstones before she crumbled to ash, leaving only the scent of sulfur and the echo of her madness. But Elena's death didn't stop the ritual. If anything, it accelerated Maya's decline. Damon. Luna called desperately. Can you break the chains? The silver, Damon's voice was strained with the effort of containing his amplified power. It's magically reinforced. I can't. Maya's heartbeat stuttered, and Luna felt something inside her chest tear apart. Her daughter was slipping away, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. That's when Damon made a decision that changed everything. There's another way, he said, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. The mate bond. If we complete it fully, our combined power might be enough to reverse the drain. Luna stared at him through the swirling energy. What are you talking about? The ritual is feeding off Maya's connection to you, using your bloodline to amplify my power. But if we complete the mate bond, if we join our souls completely, I can redirect my enhanced abilities back into her. Damon's silver eyes met hers across the cemetery. I can save her, Luna. But it will cost me everything. What do you mean? To reverse the drain, I'll have to give up my alpha power permanently. All of it. I'll become mortal, defenseless. His smile was sad but determined. My enemies will see it as weakness. Some of my own pack might challenge me. But Maya will live. Luna's goddess-enhanced senses could see the truth of his words written in the magical currents around them. The power transfer would work, but it would leave Damon vulnerable to every enemy he'd made during his reign as the most feared alpha in North America. He was offering to sacrifice everything for her child. She's not even your daughter, Luna whispered. She's yours, Damon replied simply. That makes her mine. Maya convulsed again, her breathing growing shallow, and Luna knew they were out of time. Do it, she said. Whatever you need to do it now. The mating ritual that followed was unlike anything in Luna's experience. Under the blood moon, with dark magic swirling around them and Maya's life hanging in the balance, Luna and Damon came together with desperate urgency. Their union wasn't gentle or romantic, it was primal, necessary, driven by love and fear in equal measure. As their bodies joined, their souls followed, creating a bond so deep it rewrote the very essence of who they were. Luna felt Damon's mind merge with hers, felt his memories and experiences become part of her own consciousness. The loneliness of 17 years without his mate, the pain of believing she'd chosen another, the growing love he felt for her children despite trying to remain detached. And she felt his power, vast, terrible, magnificent alpha dominance that had made him legendary among werewolves, flow out of him and into her. The sensation was overwhelming. Luna's moon goddess heritage had made her powerful, but combined with Damon's alpha abilities, she became something unprecedented. Not just the strongest werewolf alive, but potentially the strongest supernatural being in North America. The power transfer worked exactly as Damon had predicted. Maya's color returned as the magical drain reversed, her breathing deepened, and her heartbeat grew strong and steady. The silver chains binding her to the altar cracked and fell away, no longer able to contain someone connected to such immense power. But the cost was evident immediately. Damon collapsed beside Luna, his body no longer radiating the supernatural strength that had defined him for decades. He was still a werewolf, could still shift and heal faster than humans, but the alpha dominance that had made packs across the continent bow to his will was gone. He'd become mortal for her daughter. Luna gathered Maya into her arms, tears streaming down her face as her child's eyes fluttered open. Mama? Maya's voice was weak but alive, wonderfully alive. I'm here, baby girl. You're safe now. Kai broke free from his captors. The crimson wolves had fled when Elena burned, and raced across the cemetery to throw himself into Luna's embrace. I knew you'd save her, Mama, he said with the absolute faith only children possessed. As Luna held both her children, Damon struggled to his feet. Even without his alpha power, he moved to shield them from any remaining threats, his protective instincts unchanged by his sacrifice. The crimson wolves will regroup, he said, his voice hoarse with exhaustion. We should return to Shadowmere. But as they helped each other toward the waiting vehicles, Luna began to understand the true implications of what had happened. The power flowing through her wasn't just Damon's alpha abilities, it was those abilities magnified by her goddess bloodline and amplified by the blood moon ritual. She could hear heartbeats from miles away, could sense the emotional state of every living creature within a 50-mile radius. When she concentrated, she could feel the locations of werewolf packs across the entire continent, could sense their alpha strengths and weaknesses like chess pieces on a vast board. She'd become something beyond alpha, beyond even the ancient bloodlines. She was pack royalty evolved into something the werewolf world had never seen. And power like that would make her a target. The first sign of trouble came as they reached the Shadowmere vehicles. Garrett Stone stepped out of the lead SUV, his expression grim as he held up a communication device. Alpha, he said, then caught himself. Damon. We have a problem. What kind of problem? Luna asked, still cradling Maya while Kai pressed against her side. Garrett's eyes flicked to Luna with something that looked like fear. The Shadow Council has been monitoring supernatural energy fluctuations across North America. What happened here tonight? He swallowed hard. It registered on their instruments like a nuclear detonation. Luna's enhanced hearing picked up the sound of multiple engines in the distance, too many to be coincidence. They're already mobilizing, Garrett continued. Every pack within 500 miles received the same message 20 minutes ago. He held up a official-looking document sealed with symbols Luna was beginning to recognize as werewolf governmental insignia. The Shadow Council has declared you a clear and present danger to supernatural stability, Garrett read. Luna Matthews is to be terminated with extreme prejudice, and her children are to be taken into council custody for evaluation and potential elimination. The words hit Luna like physical blows. After everything she'd sacrificed, everything Damon had given up, the werewolf authorities wanted to murder her and steal her children. How many are they sending? Damon asked, his strategic mind still functioning despite his exhaustion. Garrett's expression grew darker. All of them. Every pack alpha in North America has been commanded to contribute forces to a joint task force. We're looking at potentially 300 werewolves, all focused on one target. Luna looked down at her sleeping daughter, at Kai who was trying so hard to be brave, at Damon who'd sacrificed his power to save their family. They'd survived Elena's madness and the Crimson Wolves, but now they faced something worse, the combined might of organized werewolf society. When? She asked quietly. Advanced scouts are already in position around the estate, Garrett replied. The main force arrives at dawn. We have maybe 6 hours before they move in. As if summoned by his words, 3 werewolves emerged from the tree-line, not Shadowmere pack members, but strangers wearing the formal insignia of the Shadow Council. Their leader, a stern-faced woman with prematurely gray hair, approached with the confidence of someone backed by ultimate authority. Luna Matthews, the woman called out, her voice carrying easily across the cemetery. By order of the Shadow Council, you are commanded to surrender yourself and your offspring for immediate evaluation. Resistance will be met with lethal force. Luna felt power surge through her, not just her own abilities, but the combined heritage of 2 legendary bloodlines. She could destroy these scouts without effort, could probably take on the entire task force if necessary. But at what cost? How many would die because of power she'd never asked for? As she stood in the cemetery where it had all begun, holding her children and looking at the man who'd sacrificed everything for their family, Luna realized that the real battle was just beginning. The Shadow Council wanted to eliminate her as a threat to their control. But they had no idea what they were truly up against. Chapter 8. Dawn broke over Shadowmere Estate like the opening of a war. Luna stood at the master bedroom window, watching as hundreds of werewolves emerged from the forest in perfect military formation. The Shadow Council's task force had arrived with precision timing, surrounding the mansion with overwhelming numbers and firepower. But Luna wasn't the same terrified single mother who'd clutched eviction notices and counted her last $5. Power flowed through her veins like liquid starlight, moon goddess heritage amplified by alpha dominance and blood moon magic. She could feel every heartbeat in the approaching army, could sense their fear beneath the disciplined advance. They were afraid of her. And they should be. Mama? Maya's voice came from behind her, soft and uncertain. Both twins had awakened early, their supernatural senses detecting the tension that saturated the air. Luna turned to find her children standing in the doorway, holding hands with the unconscious solidarity of siblings who'd learned to depend on each other. They looked so small, so vulnerable, despite the power beginning to manifest in their young bodies. Damon appeared behind them, his presence still commanding even without his alpha abilities. Over the past 6 hours, he'd coordinated the estate's defenses with tactical brilliance, turning Shadowmere into a fortress. But they all knew the truth, no building could withstand the forces arrayed against them. Are the bad wolves here? Kai asked quietly. Luna knelt to their eye level, her heart breaking at the casual way her 3-year-old son referred to werewolf armies as bad wolves. They should be worried about cartoons and snacks, not supernatural warfare. Yes, baby. But Mama's going to handle it. Can't we just leave? Maya whispered. Go somewhere they can't find us? Running won't work this time, sweetheart. There's nowhere to hide from the Shadow Council. Luna pulled both children into her arms, breathing in their innocent scent. But I promise you, no one will hurt our family. Not ever again. Damon's hands settled on her shoulder, warm and steadying. Even mortal, he radiated protective strength. What's the plan? Luna rose, her decision crystallizing with supernatural clarity. I'm going to challenge them directly. Luna, there are 300 werewolves out there. And I'm going to face them all. She moved to the window, watching as the Shadow Council's representatives took positions on the mansion's front lawn. 3 figures in formal robes stood apart from the military formation, the council's triumvirate, the most powerful werewolves in North America. The old laws, Luna continued, her enhanced memory accessing information from books she'd barely skimmed. Pack challenges. Single combat. Trial by ordeal. The Shadow Council may have modernized werewolf society, but they can't ignore traditions that predate their authority by centuries. Damon's eyes sharpened with understanding. You're going to invoke the right of challenge. Against all 3 council members simultaneously. That's suicide, Luna. Even with your power. It's not about winning through violence. Luna turned from the window, her amber eyes blazing with inner light. It's about proving that strength through fear isn't strength at all. It's weakness masquerading as power. Before Damon could argue further, a voice amplified by supernatural abilities echoed across the estate grounds. Luna Matthews. Present yourself for judgment or face the consequences of your defiance. Luna kissed each twin on the forehead, then pressed her lips to Damon's with desperate tenderness. If this goes wrong. It won't, he said firmly. You're not the broken woman who arrived here 2 weeks ago. You're the moon goddess reborn, and it's time they remembered what that means. Luna walked out of Shadowmere Estate alone, her bare feet silent on the frost-covered ground. She dressed simply, jeans, sweater, boots, refusing to play into their expectations of supernatural pageantry. Power didn't need costume jewelry. The army parted before her like water, hundreds of wolves stepping aside to create a corridor leading to the mansion's circular drive. Luna could smell their emotions, fear, curiosity, reluctant respect. Many had never seen a moon goddess descendant, and her mere presence activated instincts buried in their genetic memory. The Shadow Council's triumvirate waited at the center of the formation. Luna recognized them from photographs in Damon's books, ancient alphas who'd ruled werewolf society for over a century, their combined power legendary even among supernatural beings. Counselor Reginald Blackwood stood in the center, his silver hair and pale eyes marking him as old beyond human comprehension. To his left, Counselor Maria Santos radiated lethal grace, her dark features beautiful despite the predatory coldness in her expression. On the right, Counselor Viktor Volkov looked like he'd stepped out of Siberian nightmares, massive and scarred from battles fought before Luna's great-grandmother was born. Luna Matthews, Blackwood said, his voice carrying absolute authority. You stand accused of possessing power that threatens the stability of our society. How do you answer these charges? I answer by invoking the right of challenge, Luna replied, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what she was attempting. Single combat against all 3 council members, with leadership of werewolf society as the prize. Murmurs rippled through the assembled army. The right of challenge was ancient law, predating the Shadow Council's formation, but it hadn't been invoked in over 2 centuries. Santos laughed, a sound like breaking glass. You challenge all 3 of us? Child, we've ruled this world since before your parents were born. Then you should remember the old laws better than anyone, Luna shot back. Unless the Shadow Council considers itself above the traditions that gave it legitimacy in the first place. Volkov growled, his massive frame beginning to shift as his wolf pressed close to the surface. Arrogant whelp. We'll tear you apart and be done with this nonsense. But Blackwood held up a restraining hand. The challenge is valid under pack law. We accept. His smile was cold as winter. But understand, Luna Matthews, this combat is to the death. There will be no mercy, no surrender, no quarter given. I wouldn't expect any. The army formed a vast circle, creating an arena roughly 50 yards in diameter. Luna stood at the center, outwardly calm despite the knowledge that she was about to face 3 of the most powerful werewolves in existence. Then she caught sight of something that made her heart skip: Damon at an upper-story window, holding Maya and Kai so they could see their mother fight for their future. Her family was watching, depending on her, believing in her. That's when Luna's true power finally awakened. The transformation that ripped through her body was unlike anything the werewolf world had ever witnessed. Instead of growing larger, she seemed to grow brighter, her human form becoming translucent as goddess heritage flooded every cell. Silver light poured from her skin, her hair lifted as if moved by celestial wind, and her eyes became twin stars burning with lunar fire. She wasn't shifting into a wolf, she was becoming something that wolves worshipped. The Shadow Council attacked in perfect coordination, their combined experience evident in every movement. But Luna was no longer bound by physical laws that governed ordinary werewolves. Volkov's massive claws passed through her like she was made of moonbeams, while her return strike sent him flying 30 feet to crash into the circle of watching wolves. Santos tried to use her legendary speed, but Luna moved faster than thought itself, her goddess form teleporting between positions like living light. Blackwood's assault was more subtle, waves of alpha dominance designed to crush her will and force submission. But Luna's power had evolved beyond pack hierarchy. Instead of being overwhelmed, she turned his dominance back on him, her moon goddess authority superseding even the most ancient alpha bloodlines. Impossible, Blackwood gasped as his own power recoiled against him. You're not just descended from the goddess line, you are the moon goddess reborn. Luna's voice carried harmonics that resonated in frequencies beyond normal hearing. I am what you forced me to become. But the real shock came when she turned her evolved abilities on the watching army. Instead of commanding through fear or dominance, Luna reached out to something deeper, the pack bonds that connected every werewolf to their community, the innate need for belonging that drove them to accept alpha leadership in the first place. One by one, wolves throughout the circle began dropping to their knees. Not in submission, but in recognition. They could feel her power calling to the best parts of their nature: loyalty, protection, community bonds built on love rather than fear. This is what you've forgotten, Luna said, her words reaching every wolf simultaneously through supernatural connection. Pack isn't about who's strongest or most feared. It's about who you'd die to protect, who you'd live to serve, who makes you better than you could be alone. Santos made a final desperate attack, her claws aimed at Luna's heart. But before she could strike, a dozen wolves from her own pack intercepted the blow, their bodies forming a protective barrier around Luna. They weren't following orders or responding to dominance. They were choosing to protect someone who represented everything they'd hoped pack leadership could be. The battle was over without Luna landing another blow. Volkov lay unconscious, his massive frame crumpled against the mansion's stone steps. Santos found herself surrounded by wolves who'd served her for decades but now looked at her with disappointment rather than fear. And Blackwood. Blackwood was smiling. Magnificent, he said, his voice filled with something that sounded almost like relief. Absolutely magnificent. Luna's goddess form began to fade as confusion replaced battle fury. What? Did you really think we assembled an army this size to eliminate one woman? Blackwood asked, gesturing to the hundreds of kneeling werewolves. We've been searching for you for over a century, Luna. The Shadow Council was never meant to be permanent, it was a stopgap measure, waiting for the moon goddess bloodline to resurface. The implications hit Luna like a physical blow. This was all a test. The greatest test possible, Santos added, rising to her feet with obvious respect. We needed to know if the goddess bloodline had truly returned, and more importantly, whether its heir possessed the wisdom to lead with love rather than power. You passed with honors that exceeded our highest expectations, Volkov rumbled, consciousness returning despite his injuries. The way you turned our own dominance against us, the way you inspired loyalty instead of demanding it. You're everything we hoped the moon goddess would be. Luna stared at the 3 ancient alphas, her mind reeling. You want me to take over the Shadow Council? We want you to replace it, Blackwood corrected. Become the Supreme Alpha, unite all packs under one banner, bring peace to supernatural society through strength that no one would dare challenge. The offer hung in the air like a tangible thing. Ultimate power, the ability to reshape werewolf society, the chance to protect every innocent who'd ever suffered under corrupt pack leadership. All she had to do was accept a life of politics, warfare, and constant vigilance. Spend her days managing territorial disputes and pack hierarchies instead of watching her children grow up. Transform from a mother into an institution. Luna looked up at the window where Damon held Maya and Kai. Her family. Her heart. Her real pack. No, she said simply. The assembled army stirred with surprise, but Luna wasn't finished. I won't replace the Shadow Council with another system that concentrates power in the hands of one person. That's exactly the kind of thinking that led to corruption in the first place. Then what do you propose? Blackwood asked, genuine curiosity replacing his earlier confidence. Luna's enhanced mind processed possibilities at supernatural speed, but her heart provided the answer. Dissolution, she said. The Shadow Council ends today. Each pack returns to self-governance, with disputes handled by neutral mediators chosen by mutual consent. No more centralized authority, no more forced unity, no more leaders who rule through fear. That's anarchy, Santos protested. That's freedom, Luna corrected. The freedom to choose your own alpha, to leave packs that don't serve your needs, to build communities based on shared values instead of imposed hierarchy. She turned to address the entire army, her voice carrying to every wolf simultaneously. I offer you this, Shadowmere Estate becomes a sanctuary for any werewolf who needs shelter, mediation, or simply a place to belong. Come if you're fleeing abuse, if you need help resolving disputes, if you want to build something better than what you've known. But come by choice, not command. The silence stretched for long moments before a young wolf near the back of the formation spoke up. What about you? What do you get out of this arrangement? Luna's smile was pure joy. I get to raise my children in peace. I get to love my mate without politics interfering. I get to use my power when it's truly needed, not when tradition demands it. She looked directly at Blackwood. Sometimes the greatest strength is knowing when not to use your power. 1 year later. Luna Matthews Blackthorne stood at the kitchen window of their renovated home, watching Damon teach Kai and Maya to track deer through the forest behind Shadowmere Estate. The twins had grown so much in the past year. Kai was already showing signs of the strategic mind he'd inherited from his adoptive father, while Maya's empathic abilities promised to make her a natural mediator. The estate had transformed as well. What had once been a Gothic monument to alpha dominance now bustled with the activity of werewolves from dozens of different packs. Refugees fleeing abusive leadership, young wolves learning to control their abilities, even former enemies working together to build something unprecedented, a community based on choice rather than blood or birthright. Luna's hand settled on her swollen belly, where another child grew beneath her heart. This one would be Damon's biological offspring, but she knew it wouldn't matter. All 3 children would be loved equally, protected fiercely, raised to understand that true power came from serving others rather than ruling them. Mama, look. Maya's voice called from the forest edge. I can hear what the deer are thinking. That's wonderful, sweetheart, Luna called back, though she made a mental note to work with Maya on the ethical implications of telepathic abilities. Damon appeared at her shoulder, his arms sliding around her waist from behind. Even without his alpha powers, he radiated contentment in a way that made Luna's heart sing. Any regrets? He asked quietly. Luna leaned back against his solid warmth, her eyes finding the small framed $5 bill hanging on the kitchen wall, the last money she'd possessed as a desperate single mother in Chicago. Only that it took me so long to find my way home, she said. Outside, their children played in safety while dozens of werewolves found sanctuary and purpose. The Shadow Council had dissolved peacefully, replaced by a loose confederation of independent packs who turned to Shadowmere Estate for mediation when disputes arose. Luna had kept her promise. She'd protected her family, transformed the werewolf world, and proved that sometimes the most revolutionary act was simply choosing love over power. Her worst moment, clutching that eviction notice with $5 to her name, had indeed been the beginning of her greatest adventure. As Damon's hand joined hers on their unborn child, Luna smiled and looked toward the future. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. After all, they were pack. I know you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel for more videos like this. Also, if you have thoughts, please do well to drop them in the comments section. Before leaving, share this video to family and friends. The end.